I promise I won't come inside. I really won't. I promise I won't come inside if you leave the window open. I won't go all the way, just a little. All of you are so soft. You're so soft. I really won't hurt you, I promise. I want to look at you. Just a little. Curtain. Please don't replace the blinds. It was so hard to get them open. I promise I won't be around too much if you'll just let me come and look once in a while. I just get so lonely. I just get really, really lonely, and it would mean so much to me if you'd just leave the blinds broken where my face is. It won't even bother you. It's too high up for you to see anyway. You won't even notice me. I'm quiet. I really am sorry about the dog. I know he's not supposed to be outside, but it really wasn't his fault. I didn't want to hurt him, so I put him out of the way. I'm really very nice. I can introduce myself if you want. I'm Tag. That's what she called me, Tag. That was her idea. I liked it, so I let her. But usually I don't, and she was very nice, but no one really liked her much. You see, because she and we're both just a little different, that's all. We're really very nice once you get to know us. And this girl, I think her name was Molly. And I lived above her bed, and I watched her sleep, because that's what she made me for. It was to watch her sleep. But one night, I got too far away. And now I'm a little different, is all. My head doesn't hurt at all. It really doesn't. It just looks funny. And for a while, she called me Sockhead. But then I got good at running. She called me Tag. But then Molly went somewhere. And I can't find her. I'd really like to find her, but really I just need you to see me just for a second. I know I'm a little different, but I promise. I promise I'll just watch you for a little while and you'll think you were dreaming. I really don't want to hurt you. I just want to get more different. You understand, right? I really don't mean to be a bother, but can you please leave your curtains open tonight? I think it's a bullshit excuse, and if you use it to get out of something you did, I'm going to think you're a dick. With that being said, I really honestly do not know how this happened. There were a lot of other dogs I liked more. I passed over him 3 times before I saw him sitting in the darkest corner of his kennel. I literally could not see him until the light reflected in one of his eyes. Then I stopped. Holy shit, I mumbled. I crouched and I got a better look at the dog. A little black Pomeranian. It was sitting rigidly in the corner watching me. It appeared to be covered in some kind of growth. Odd things bulging out of every surface of its body. Jesus, I said. What the hell is wrong with it? The attendant shrugged. Dunno. He came in today. Can't get near him. And if you try to touch him, he bites. Honestly, I wouldn't. But I was standing up, my eyes locked on the dogs. They watched me with curious intensity. I want him, I heard myself say. I was surprised, but I had to admit there was something weirdly endearing about the ugly dog. The attendant reluctantly opened the cage, and the dog got up and walked calmly out and sat at my side. It looked up at me with its weird black marble eyes, and I bent down. I wrapped my hand under its hind legs, supporting it, in one of the only places the tumors hadn't grown. The attendant just stared at me until I turned and walked calmly to the front of the shelter. I bought him for $150 with the understanding that I was fully responsible for anything that might go wrong with him. I put him in the front seat of the car, buckled him in, and we drove home. I really, honestly don't know what happened. For the first few days, he acted like a normal dog. Whoever had owned him before had clearly trained him very well. He was smart. I didn't have to force a leash over his lumpy neck because he never left my side. He kept close, always in my shadow. And even when squirrels crossed our path, he never budged. He ate like a horse, though. I couldn't give this dog enough food. I worried about it at first, and I tried to cut back, but he looked at me with those weird eyes, and I watched myself give him a double serving. He never put on weight, but the tumors seemed to grow. As with the eating, though, it didn't seem to concern me. But I noticed other strange things, too. I was missing a lot of time. I came home from work, and in what felt like an instant, it was time for bed. Those episodes always seemed to be preceded by the dog coming into the room and sitting at my feet. God, he was an ugly thing. I mean, barely dog-shaped anymore. The tumors took up most of his body mass. His skin was black as well, so it was hard to notice the hair loss, but it was there. I never really looked at him when I could help it. I decided there definitely was a correlation between the missing time and the dogs. I just didn't know what to do with the information. Couldn't explain it. That is, until one night, when he walked into the living room, sat at my feet, and spoke to me. I was watching the weather and there was a tornado happening in Topeka. I felt bad for their big grain silos that were currently hurtling through houses and barns. The dog came and he sat at my feet and I ignored him until the television went out. He was watching me with a somehow much more casual demeanor. He cocked his head and he spoke in a deep baritone voice that I heard as much as I felt. I apologize for taking up so much of your time. I understand you live tragically brief lives. How cruel. I blinked at him and opened my mouth, but he continued. When the others come, I trust you will be hospitable. It will prolong your life a great deal. A completely foreign sensation rippled through me, and I grabbed my skull and I tried to keep it from coming apart at the seams. I managed to open one eye enough to see the growths on the dog tear open in great spurts of thick yellow-gray fluid that soaked what little fur it had left. The tumors uncoiled themselves and trembling rose to hook onto the air itself and tear it apart. And behind reality, I saw endless flashing shapes in every color that could ever be. And to look at it made something in my brain pop until I fell to my knees. And I passed out. When I awoke, I was alone. There was no sign that he'd ever been there. It's like he never existed. It's been about a year since then, and I don't have any other animals, but every time I leave the house, I can't help but think about what he said to me about being hospitable. See, it also occurred to me that he never specified who the others were. And I wonder when the next one will show up. Good evening, kids. It's me, MrCreepyPasta, and I wanted to tell you thank you so much for watching tonight's video, or listening to tonight's podcast, or however you hear tonight's story. If you guys are listening on YouTube, then I really appreciate it. I appreciate the likes, the comments, and the subs. If you guys are listening on Spotify, I appreciate the follow or the sub. If you listen anywhere else you can find a podcast, then, I appreciate you doing that as well, because this is what I do. And of course, I want to give a very, very, very big shout out to all of my followers on Patreon, especially Bloodlace, Peter Bowie, AcidSystem, F, Alan Hyper, Brennan Matthews, Mary Massacre, Janine Hook, Paul Livingston, Seth Joseph Richards, Ashlyn, Deadeye Nick, Azad Hosenbokus, Rick Dance, Bryce Charles, Luminen Walker, Sheri Morgan, Jake Mcnee, Victoria Helton, BDH9294, Melinda S, Phinney, Nathan, Dante Rowe, Jane Rennalls, acebandg, Ryan Kellum, Bobby J. CAVANAUGH, Barbara Biggs, BellaBailey, Ninja Grace, Dad Obsessed Trash, Suzanne Grow, Tommy Walters, Tater Chip, Onbu Op Willie, Sarah Gree, Yuri Catslash, Randy, Brad Gustafson, Sean Tristan Markham, B. Lisa Tyser, Jose Rodriguez, Adagio Rose, Peaceful Buddha, Azarine Fox, Freddy Krueger, Ho Gunkchi, Justin Johnson, King Hades F13, Michael Scarborough, James Lowe, Someone You Love, Nina Smith, Rafael Rodriguez, and Chance Burnett. You guys, as always, are the real MVP, and I can't thank you enough for helping me get to where I am now and, generally keeping me alive. So thank you all so much for supporting on Patreon. Thank you everybody in the description for supporting on Patreon. And thank you everybody out there who's listening and watching somewhere across the many reaches of the internet. Have a good night and sweet dreams.